Just in case you're panicking, Dyrn is not the Datamined spoiler. It has nothing to do with Dyrn whatsoever. You can delete that rage comment. So if you're not familiar with Eberron, then it is another D&D setting like the Forgotten Realms, set in the world of Eberron. For broad strokes purposes, it is quite similar to the Forgotten Realms in terms of many of the races that reside upon Eberron, but the setting does have a vastly different history and cosmology. There are some significant differences in the style of adventures one might have on Eberron, as they are usually defined by swashbuckling pulp adventures with fascinating and strange technology, influenced by powerful magic. That's really just a brief overview of Eberron and the tip of the iceberg of this vast world. But there is loads of reading that you can do about it, as Eberron was first created back in 2004, with a campaign setting book being released for 5th edition in 2019. It is known that wizards are keen to really start combining their settings in a big way, and today I'd like to share with you an interesting bit of lore around someone called Dern the Corrupter. Someone who is basically king of the Mind Flayers in Eberron and effectively above the Elder Brains there. Then I'd like to talk about something called the Overmind, which will hopefully demonstrate some of the potential inspiration for Larian. I don't think that these two things are directly linked to the plot of Baldur's Gate 3, but I think the Illithids have so much more potential to them than just one conclave and one Elder Brain ruling over them, and this video will demonstrate that. To start things off, I'd like to share with you a bit of party dialogue between Will, Lae'zel and Gale.
Who's in charge of the Mind Flayers, Lae'zel? Is there a Squid King or something?
A Mind Flayer monarch? Imagine that. Such a thing could shatter worlds.
No. Each Geich is servant to an Elder Brain. No king unites elders, only their collective tyranny.
Although Lae'zel corrects Gale here, it is possible that the wizard from Waterdeep was foreshadowing something. The Illithid tadpoles are acting differently, we have significant control over them, and they are not fitting the normal stereotype of how the tadpole should be working. Even Omelum ponders whether his species is evolving. Okay, the next bit contains the Datamined spoiler, so please don't continue watching the video if you don't want to know. In English.xml I found the following line: summoned by the Undying Court of Eberron in the middle of the night, he had to leave immediately. I sent this over to Chublot because my data mining consists of typing in keywords rather than any actual data mining, and he told me that although it isn't 100%, it seems like it is something the player character might say in response to Lae'zel or Minsk when Astarion was taken by the monster hunter Gur. The Undying Court is a feature of Eberron and is made up of the ancestors of the elves upon the continent of Erenal. These ancestors are spirits who act as counselors, protectors, warriors and holy figures to the elves of the continent. The Undying Court is based in the city of Shame-or-Die, also known as the City of the Dead, and whilst the sibling kings are the traditional living rulers of the elves of Erenal, the Undying Court shapes the destiny of the race as a whole. It does seem like there is a melding of the settings more than ever in D&D, and Baldur's Gate 3 would be a good place to facilitate this melding even more. It isn't the first time a Baldur's Gate game has done this, as in Baldur's Gate 2 Shadows of Arm we can see the Knights of Solamnia from Dragonlance in the sphere within Athkatla, having been transported there from the world of Krynn. So who is the guy in the thumbnail? This is Dern the Corrupter, and in the 5th edition Eberron Rising from the Last War he is described as follows. Dyrrn is known to its followers as the Corruptor, the Stealer of Thoughts, the Slithering Lord, and the Foul Labyrinth. In the lore of the Gatekeepers, it is said that Dyrrn plants thoughts in the weak-minded, the seeds of terrible ideas that fester and grow. Those who are particularly brilliant often draw the attention of the Foul Labyrinth, which hungers to consume unique minds. The Mind Flayers of Eberron also know Dyrrn as the Overmind, but this is actually different to the Overmind I want to talk about later. Dyrrn serves as the cornerstone of their collective consciousness. Of all the Dal'Kyr, the Corruptor is the most adept at twisting minds and bodies to create monsters. The Dal'Kyr are extraplanar creatures from Xoriat, the Realm of Madness, a bit like the Eberron version of the Far Realm, but Keith Baker, the creator of the Eberron setting, actually says that Xoriat makes up the 13 planes of Eberron and is not beyond reality like the Far Realm. In the Eberron setting, it is suspected that the Dal'Kyr may have had a hand in creating the Illithids, but like the Forgotten Realms, the Illithid's origin is a mystery, but they do tend to serve Dal'Kyr. This is why Dyrrn looks so different to a Mind Flayer. He's a completely different species, but he is the centre of most Mind Flayers' reverence in Eberron. Dyrrn was first introduced in 4th edition and was coined as the creator of the Dolgaunts, Dolgrims and Dolgars, aberrant forms of goblins, hobgoblins and bugbears. In a tweet in 2018, Keith Baker described Dyrrn as follows: Dyrrn is the Overmind, the fulcrum of the Illithid telepathic network. Dyrrn is directly tied to all Elder Brains, which in turn connect Illithids and key agents within specific regions. It is also said in 5th edition that Dyrrn is a prolific creator of symbionts, an organism living in symbiosis with another. Also, Mind Flayers frequently work with Dyrrn's cults, many of which are obsessed with evolution through the use of symbionts. So I said that the Mind Flayers also know Dyrrn as the Overmind. Interestingly, there is an AD&D adventure called Dawn of the Overmind written by Bruce R. Cordell, and it is a really bizarre adventure but with a fascinating storyline. It is the 3rd installment of a trilogy of adventures and was written long before Eberron or Dyrrn was even thought of in Dungeons & Dragons, having been published in 1998. The Overmind is an object, not a person, and so certainly different to Dyrrn. Dawn of the Overmind has the adventurers attempting to stop the return of the Illithid Empire, and whilst it's a lot more complex than that, that's the most basic summary I can give. The Overmind is an artifact that was developed by Mind Flayers from across the multiverse, because of an ether gap that was discovered which led to a stillborn universe where the Illithid Empire still reigned supreme. An ether gap is a strange phenomena that exists upon the ethereal plane. They manifest in the mists of the plane and act as a strange tugging point that pulls people into an alternate timeline. The ether gap that led to an alternate universe where the Illithids still had a huge empire only worked in one direction. The Illithids put things into the gap, but they were unable to get them to return, meaning that the universe in which the Illithids still ruled supreme could not actually send anything into the other universe. It was one-way traffic. Studying the ether gap for many years, they eventually found a possible way to reverse it. In a sense, they wanted to turn the gap inside out. In order to achieve this, the Illithids collectively built a great structure around the ether gap 3 miles in diameter, called the Overmind. Within the Overmind is something called the Engine Consummate, a complex psionic machine that leeches heat from countless suns, sending their light-giving energy towards the Overmind. The adventure says the following: despite the Mind Flayers' recent actions, the Illithids did not just build the Overmind overnight. In fact, 300 years have passed since the discovery of the ether gap, during which time a select group of Illithids laboured ceaselessly. This select cadre of Mind Flayers hid their designs from the rest of their race. Only recently have the average planet-bound Illithid communities been involved in subjugating surface races. So, given that the Illithids of the material plane have largely forgotten how to create nautiloids, why does the deceased Mind Flayer in the Goblin camp show us this?
The sky splits open and nautiloids pour out of a void that consumes the stars.
Where are these nautiloids that consume the stars coming from? Is there potential for a Mind Flayer monarch? Whatever Larian have planned, or wherever the story could go in Baldur's Gate 3, it seems to me that it could be something far more exciting than just one conclave of Illithids ruled over by a single Elder Brain. Anyway, thanks for watching guys. If you enjoyed this video then do please give me a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!